Capital for the upcoming week. Sunshine returns, comfort returns. We are finally kicking that very annoying low pressure system out to sea, at least until perhaps the end of the week into the weekend. For more, go to our latest forecast at CWG.news/latest on the blog anytime need us at capitalweathergang.com. And as you can see here, forecast at a glance above us, we are going slowly back toward average where we should be in the low to mid 70s this time of year. We finally get there maybe by Thursday or so, perhaps a few spots on Wednesday as well. So we're getting more comfortable, getting sunshine rejuvenation, but rain chances do return maybe as early as Thursday night and into Friday. Hello, Ruth Elisa. Hello, Gary. And hello, David. Thanks so much for tuning in, you three. Really appreciate it. Good to see you. We do have in the mid-Atlantic and the DC area some frost advisories and freeze warnings along and west of the Blue Ridge, along the I-81 corridor, basically. We are getting tired of it, but I know folks in the Shenandoah Valley are not surprised around Mother's Day to still have to wait to plant those most sensitive items, such as tomatoes. But it's about time just to not see this anymore. We are here on Twitter at CWG.news/Twitter, or follow us on Twitter at Capital Weather. We are getting a little snarky, a little fed up with some of this chill. Hello, Maria. Hello, Rick. It's nice to have our last 40-degree day of the year. Yes, Rick, fingers crossed, but it does look likely. We may even be able to keep around the beltway of DC low temperatures at or above 40 degrees for this point forward into the growing season. Hello, Aaron. Thanks for tuning in. And yes, Ruth Elisa, I do share Camden Yard's name there in Baltimore as well, near Penn Station. Hello, Maria. Thanks so much for tuning in. And for the breezes this week, and here's the next 24 hours, just to kind of let us talk about the breezes. There might be a consistent east-northeasterly breeze this week. Here's tomorrow, 15, 20, maybe a couple 25 mile per hour wind gusts are possible, but overall, I think you'll find the breezes this week tolerable as the temperatures go up toward more comfortable levels each passing day. But it's worth noting that a marine layer, which means ocean air off the Chesapeake Bay, air off the cooler Atlantic, blowing from the east-northeast into the DC area and kind of abutting and hitting the eastern slopes of the Blue Ridge Mountains and Appalachians could give us some low clouds some mornings, maybe some patchy fog. So keep in mind, while we do generally see fairly bright skies this week, this fetch of wind off of the ocean in Chesapeake Bay could give us a few low clouds, patchy fog, bits here and there that we need to burn off some mornings coming up before we see that sunshine generally dominate the skies through Thursday. So keep that in mind, don't be surprised. And as always, every Sunday night, I thank you for joining me on these weekly Sunday Sunset Chats. I'm Camden Walker for CapitalWeathergang.com. Here it is. Look at that, over 14 hours of daylight from sunrise to sunset. Now the evening light is shining bright until 8:07 p.m. And I'm simulcasting to you live on all three of our YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook channels. Make sure you're following us on all three. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, anytime you need us, we're at CapitalWeathergang.com. Mahia, good to see you as well. And below average temperatures, Kristen, we are kicking those by the wayside, but let's look ahead toward this week. We get back toward average by kind of Wednesday, Thursday. And here it is looking at next work week. We have a slight chance of being near normal to maybe a slight probability of below average temperatures. But here's the good news. Our average high temperatures are getting warmer and warmer. Here it is for next work week, 76 degrees for a high at Washington National Airport. And then precipitation for next work week, slight leaning of the atmosphere toward wetter than average. So slight probability of wetter than average for next work week as well. And we're doing okay in the rain department, definitely better than folks in the Intermountain West and the West Coast. And we'll talk a moment about the New Mexico fires and Texas heat. But we are okay in the mid-Atlantic. The Carolinas and even parts of Florida do have some patches of droughts, and they're in southern Louisiana as well. But I want you just to realize east of the Mississippi River, we are doing much better overall. Other things that might affect you this week, kind of weather adjacent, pollen is high for the trees, and even grasses are getting going because it is May. And then some mugginess is possible, dew points above 60 degrees, maybe on Friday into the weekend. We'll keep you posted. Some uncertainty as to timing if we do see a low pressure system kind of spin back into our region again at the end of this week into the weekend. But we will keep you posted, of course, at capitalweathergang.com and also on the blog at capitalweathergang.com. Our write-up on the Texas heat at CWG.news/TexasHeat. Can you believe 112 degrees is happening? in Texas. And then New Mexico, the entire state is under a red flag warning for potentially historic fires there. Go to CWG.news/NMfires for more on that. All right, locally, here is your weather at a glance and our latest forecast at CWG.news/latest. Our PM update by Greg Porter on CapitalWeatherGang.com is now out, and you can see we are getting more and more comfortable this week, and sunshine generally dominates. Arlene, thanks for reporting in about your heavy winds. And let's see, Gary, frost warnings also in Maine. Yes, indeed. Can't seem to kick it on many places along the East Coast. Got one more batch of frost and freeze warnings, including in the mid-Atlantic along and west of the Blue Ridge Mountains and along the Appalachian Spine here in the I-81 corridor. You can see here, even into West Virginia, there are freeze warnings, not just frost advisories. Hello, Peter. Thanks so much for tuning in. David, most kind, thanks for tuning in tonight. And Paul, you don't mind the chill, at least 60s and 70s. You're okay with it, it sounds like. Excellent. And Robin loves winter, spring. I'm glad you're okay with these kind of transitional temperatures, but I would argue they're pretty darn comfortable after some chilly starts a couple mornings and maybe some low-level clouds, thanks to the fetch of wind blowing some moisture off of the Atlantic Ocean and Chesapeake Bay, into our DC region. Alan, standard pattern, so weak and then nasty in time for the weekend. Hey, I would argue, we have some question marks for the weekend, only a 40% chance of rain, even there you can see on Friday. So stay tuned. We'll see. Maybe this low pressure system for next weekend is delayed a little bit. It's possible. So keep the faith. Keep a little bit of hope. Laura, you're most welcome. Thanks for tuning in. And Drew, thunderstorms maybe in Central Virginia later this week, maybe into next weekend. I don't see a super favorable pattern for widespread thunderstorms just yet, kind of around and north of the Potomac River area. We'll see. It's worth watching. We'll see how the air masses mix together at the end of this week. There again are a lot of question marks, a lot of moving parts, interplaying between high pressure and low pressure systems dancing around us in the southeastern United States as well through the end of this week. And Pat, we are in a slightly rainy pattern, but I would argue with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday being most likely dry this week, we're getting a good alternation between the two. But we are seeing some blocking in the atmosphere. The high pressure over the United States is kind of known as an omega block because it builds a huge ridge over the North American continent, and you can see a little bit of encroachment of low pressure systems kind of along the west coast and east coast, but nothing really moves very fast. There's no real flow of the jet stream, and that's why you're perceiving most properly that we kind of get stuck in a southern pattern, and then we get maybe rain for a few days as well. Julia is done with the rain. No more rain, please. I will do my best, Julia. So here it is, Monday through Thursday. Focus on that, and not the end of the week, end of the weekend, that we might see some more raindrops. Indeed, Kenny's been positive on the rain. Yep, the water table is high, and we are doing okay with the breezes that should be noticeable but fairly tame in the next 24 hours. Wind gusts 15 to maybe even 25 miles per hour are possible, but they should slowly wane as we go through this week. As temperatures rise into the end of the week, breezes should fall just a little bit, kind of an opposite stair-step pattern with the temperatures. And here we are, 8:07 p.m. sunset for our weekly Sunday sunset chats. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Camden Walker for CapitalWeatherGang.com, and 14 hours of daylight. Look at that, we're over it now in the DC area. And I'm simulcasting to you on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook. Make sure you're following us on all three of our social media sites that have streaming capability, and Instagram as well, of course. Please follow us there. And we've also got to look ahead at, yes, Kenny is mentioning that the water table is doing well. How much more rain do we expect in the coming week? Well, by the time you talk to me next Sunday, we could see a half an inch in Central Virginia, and points south of there are somewhat in the bullseye with some heavier downpours and some more steady rain and some thunderstorms in North Carolina this week as well, which they're suffering from some more intense drought conditions than anywhere in the tri-state area, the DC, DMV, DC, Virginia, and Maryland. We don't need quite as much rain as North Carolina, so this is good news to send the rain south. And you can see not too much as it stands now, maybe a quarter to third of an inch around the Potomac River area of DC and the Beltway and I-95 corridor between Baltimore and Fredericksburg. All right, Conroy is loving the cool weather and the recent electric bill savings. I hear you. Let's look ahead to Saturday. Even though we do see a potential for mugginess and more rain chances, it is still warm. near 80 in several spots potentially coming up on Saturday. And the next work week, we lean near normal to maybe a slightly below average for temperatures, but the averages are getting warmer. To keep that in mind, 76 for a high temperature is what we expect next work week, kind of as a benchmark. So when you think slight chance of being below average, there's a chance it's really not that cool. It's still maybe comfortable as these averages get higher and higher into May. We're going to hit, by the way, at the end of the month, 80 degrees for average high temperature at National Airport. So we are getting warmer and warmer this month. And as far as the rainfall category, a slight chance the atmosphere is leaning toward a wetter than average week next week as well. But here's the drought monitor. We're doing pretty well, especially east of the Mississippi. And yes, the yellow shading in the mid-Atlantic does indicate we are abnormally dry. This doesn't even take into account, though, the recent heavy rains that we had in the last 5 days. So I think by the time we show this map to you next Sunday, with the latest data that goes through this upcoming Tuesday morning, that we're going to see several spots come out of even the abnormally dry. I think even drought spots are going to be erased from some of this map along the East Coast as well, which again, it's very spotty and few and far between spots. Now, allergy sufferers, are you suffering from the trees and the grass? You're not imagining it. They are high to moderate for the grass category. And also the weather adjacent report for dew point levels may be getting above 60 degrees come Friday, maybe Saturday and Sunday. As rain chances go up, the dew points and moisture in the atmosphere might become palpable to you by the end of this week into the weekend. Not too bad, right? Moist becoming unpleasant in the 60 to 65 degree category for dew points, at least as we expect now. But stay tuned for changes as we get closer. It is a little hard to pin down the exact timing and intensity of rains at the end of this week into the weekend. We're kind of watching a meandering low pressure system maybe wiggle our way by the end of the week. So we'll keep you posted. We do need to watch that. Other material we have written for you in the last couple days at capitalweathergang.com, the Texas heat and the New Mexico wildfires. Make sure you use these links to access them directly or go directly to our blog 24/7. We're at capitalweathergang.com. We've seen some terrible heat and drought situations there in the southwestern United States, south central US. It's just getting very hot, very dry, and very unpleasant. So we're keeping an eye on things there and making sure people stay safe as best possible in those terrible conditions. So coming closer to home, we've got more comfortable and sunnier weather coming back to you this week in the DC area and the mid-Atlantic. Rain chances should hold off until Thursday night and Friday, and our latest forecast at CWG.news/latest right there. Our PM update now on the blog for you by Greg Porter. Joe, you're most welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Maureen getting married at 5 p.m. in Kent Island. I like the prediction here on this forecast at a glance of 40% chance of rain in the DC area for Friday. I think just have a plan B, have some tents up at this point. I don't think it's with probability still enough up in the air when it comes to Friday. Do we see this low pressure system cut off from the jet stream flow, kind of bounce toward us again on Friday into the weekend? There's too many question marks, Maureen, to make any hard decisions just yet. So make sure things, even if you're forming a plan B, that you can cancel things and don't do anything in stone just yet. Hello, Kip. Most welcome for the forecast. Thanks for tuning in. Gary, you take care. Thanks for tuning in. And we've got Michael. You're welcome about the allergy info. Trees and grasses are not our friends in the pollen category, the allergy category for this coming week. And Drought Monitor comes out, David, on Thursday morning with the Tuesday morning data. They take about 48 hours to compile the data between Tuesday morning data, releasing it on Thursday morning. And Peg, hello. Thanks so much for tuning in. And Drew, you've heard a meteorologist talk about a few 100+ degree days possible due to the moderate La Nina. We'll see. It's been hard to get to 100 degrees in recent years because we've had more and more moisture in the atmosphere thanks to the warming climate and climate change. More moisture is able to be kind of the sponge of the atmosphere, is expanding and taking in more moisture, which is more difficult for the sun to directly heat us into a hotter temperature. But I would argue heat index values, those are higher than most summers we've seen recently because you combine the air temperature with this increased mugginess and humidity as measured by higher dew points with climate change. We are more uncomfortable than ever. So yes, 100-degree possible temperatures maybe this summer with La Nina, but I don't think it's a guarantee. Yes, boo to climate change, Rachel, and boo 100s. And Robin, you're most welcome. Thanks for tuning in. And no 80s in the future would be nice, so this might be your week. Please enjoy the 60s and 70s this week. I think I'm looking at this forecast at a glance. I'm loving the increased sunshine after such a wet and raw weekend this past weekend. 60s and 70s are very comfortable. Just remember that sunscreen with some of the bright sun this week. And keep in mind, we do have some easterly breezes that might bring in some low clouds every now and then. A couple mornings, we'll have to burn off that marine layer from the ocean and the bay. Frost advisories tonight and freeze warnings west of town along the I-81 corridor. I know folks in the Shenandoah Valley know not to really plant those sensitive items like tomatoes just yet until after the Mother's Day weekend finishes up, but this is still annoying to us. We're trying to get a little past some of these frost and freeze warnings. And so here you can see, if you're following us on Twitter today at Capital Weather, we got a little bit snarky, a little bit impatient with some of these temperatures. So hopefully you can bring in, if you are in the Shenandoah Valley, you can bring in those sensitive plants, hopefully in pots. You can bring them indoors for the night and then put them back outside tomorrow. So we're getting there. Growing season is almost upon us, I promise. Let's see, Maureen, the cool weather this weekend was not unusual for May. There was just a cutoff low pressure system that was not having it when, as far as the jet stream trying to steer it, it was cut off from the flow. So it got to meander lazily around our region. Here are the breezes for the next 24 hours. Generally, I would argue under control. 15 to 25 mile per hour wind gusts are not unheard of in the next 24 hours. But I think breezes this week are going to behave more often than not. They will be out of an east-northeasterly direction off of the Atlantic Ocean and the Chesapeake Bay. So we'll feel a little bit chilly every now and then. We might have some mornings where we have low clouds we have to burn off and maybe patchy fog along the larger waterways. But overall, I think breezes are trending downward this week as temperatures trend upward this week. So that's maybe some good news for our comfort levels. All right, I'm simulcasting to you live on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Make sure you're following us at all three. And here's our 14 hours of daylight. We have now reached some of our longest days of the year. I hope you're enjoying it. And our sunsets are now headed after 8 o'clock now. We're 8:07 tonight. I think you'll see me around 8:10 or 8:11 p.m. next Sunday as our evening light gets later and later. So, feels like we're getting summer light now with August level sun angle. Very strong August sun. Make sure you're wearing that sunscreen in the middle of the day as well. Very important to remember, even though it's cool temperatures sometimes, that has nothing to do with ultraviolet rays burning your skin. So just keep that in mind. We're not used to thinking about that since it's not warm temperatures just yet, so it's not top of mind. All right, rainfall by the time you talk to me next Sunday, kind of the bulk of it sticking south of town, but this could meander a little bit more toward us on the Potomac River area and the DC area. But yes, thunderstorms are possible in central Virginia, maybe a couple around the DC area later this week, Thursday night into Friday. But as you can see, most of it is focused south of town, especially over North Carolina, where they could use the rain. And we're doing fine in the rainfall departments in the DC area and barely abnormally dry, if at all. So water tables are doing okay. And this data does not even include our recent rainfalls in the last 4 days or so. So I think we're doing a-okay, and especially here east of the Mississippi River, we are doing all right in the rainfall department. Yes, indeed. All right, late sunsets are great, says David and Drew. 3 weeks to go until Memorial Day weekend. Excellent to remember that. Yep, only 3 weeks to go until the unofficial start of summer. And we are slowly getting there with temperatures this coming Saturday, looking ahead at least near 80, even with the chance of clouds and rain showers around. Next work week, yes, it leans maybe slightly below average, but keep in mind our averages are getting warmer and warmer into the mid-70s. We're at 80 degrees for an average high temperature by the end of the month. So even below average is meaning still comfortable air, most likely than not. And rainfall next week, leaning slight chance of being above normal as well. So we're doing a-okay with the rains. And yes, mugginess could come up with a 60 degree or higher dew point on Friday into the weekend. And trees are very high with the pollen and grasses are moderate. So just keep in mind kind of some weather adjacent comfort factors for this upcoming week. And of course, also on CapitalWeatherGang.com, we've written about the Texas heat at CWG.news/TexasHeat. where 112 degrees happened in Texas recently, and I am glad I was not there for that. And also, speaking of a really unfortunate situation, New Mexico, the entire state is under a red flag warning. Potentially historic wildfires there. Go to CWG.news/NMfires. New Mexico Fire abbreviation there, NMfires. And I will see you next Sunday. Thanks so much for tuning in. Here's your forecast at a glance and our latest forecast at CWG.news/latest. Rachel, please take care of your family in New Mexico and California. And David, always can use the rain. Yes, indeed. Just hopefully not too much in too short of a time frame for any of us. And David and Drew, thanks for tuning in as well. I'll see everyone next Sunday around 8:11 p.m. as our sunsets get later and later. Rachel, you're most welcome. Everyone, have a very good start to your week. Enjoy the comfortable air and increased sunshine.